Time jump. Time jump. It's been a long 2 years. If I had any kind of production budget, I'd be sitting here with a big gray Dumbledore beard just to show the passage of time. But zero budget. Good ideas, bad budget. Okay, so before I start watching episodes post time skip, one thing I mentioned this probably in my Q&A. I recorded for over 2 hours. God knows how long the video is actually going to be. But essentially, there were 600 issues of the manga. I never remember if it's manga or manga. I'm going to say manga. Before the time skip. So people rightly assume there'd be 600 issues after the time skip. Like we're splitting the story in half, right? And that the series would be over with 1,200 issues. Well, now they've got 1,110 issues, according to this commenter. And we're nowhere near being done. So it's probably going to end up being 1,300 issues. So the post-time skip will be a little bit longer. Now, interestingly enough, we had 516 episodes of the anime, not 600. So they weren't doing a one-to-one adaptation. And that includes filler, by the way. You have a shitload of filler, and they still didn't get up to 600 episodes of the anime. So they weren't doing a one-to-one adaptation. And we're up to episode 1046 or some shit. So we don't even, let me see. So I guess that's another 524 episodes. So we already have more episodes of the anime after the time jump than before the time jump. So like they've gone down to like I think 0.8 issues of the manga per episode of the anime. And by the way, that's still including filler. Maybe there's more filler. There seems to be less filler now moving forward, because there used to be like there'd be like 8 to 10 straight episodes of filler, and usually now, according to the filler list I've looked at, it's 1 to 3 episodes of filler, and that's it, and then they get right back into the story. So yeah, it seems like we're definitely gonna end up with more episodes, because we already have more episodes post time skip. And I think the anime is at least a year behind the manga, right? So like there's much more to adapt. So it was supposed to be the halfway point of the story, which is interesting to me because looking at how the entire story is structured, it feels like we've only had one act. This is the first act of the story, so we have 2 more acts to go, right? But I was never a fan of the 3-act structure, and I don't think it always works. I think trying to hammer everything into a 3-act structure is idiotic, and you're trying too hard. But, so I use the term loosely. It feels like we've gathered our friends. We've definitely done it, even though we lost them. They're gathered, right? And we know what we have to do. We know, like, for instance, just knowing what the Force is one thing, but knowing how to train to use the Force is something entirely different. And, Luke Skywalker didn't know how to train himself to use the Force until the end of the second movie. Right? So it took 2 movies. So, but sometimes that can be considered just the first act. So, like I said, that's why you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the 3-act structure. But yeah, it feels like now... Feels like we have a good foundation to the story, and now we can go literally any direction. Although the direction seems to be obvious. I talked about this Q&A. I'm not going to repeat myself here. The confines of this video is just, what do I think is going to happen next? Not much, so much looking back, focus forward. So let me go ahead and focus forward before I start rambling too much more. I've already looked back with that Q&A video. Focus forward, what do I think is going to happen next? Well, we really have 2 possibilities. Either we start the time jump with everybody already back together, or we start the time jump with people starting to get back together. Narratively speaking, it's more interesting if we see the reunions one at a time as they happen, rather than they happen some point during the 2-year time jump. Also, he said 2 years, and I think it is just going to be a 2-year skip. Who knows? It could be a 3-year skip. But they really emphasize the 2 years. I think we're going to pick up a few days before the 2 years is up, and people will be traveling to get back to the island and get back to the Thousand Sunny. and they will. So we'll see all the reunions. I think that's the way it's going to go. You have two choices. I think they're going to choose that one. Okay, so that'll probably take 10, 15 episodes. Reacquaint where everybody is now, and reunions, and getting to the Thousand Sunny. What's interesting is you have those people that have been guarding the ship for 2 effing years. And that was my first clue that this was when we were getting the time jump, because why would you put that mechanism in place where we got people guarding the ship? Because the obvious question would be why would the ship still be there? Well, you have to have people who are loyal to you who are guarding it. So that had to be put in place. That had to be set up. Once they set that up and the people said that it was their intention to guard the ship, I knew we were getting the time jump before everybody gets back together. That was the obvious mile marker. So yeah, I think the first 10, 15 episodes will be that. We're getting back together. Okay, so then what? They're going to the new world, whatever the hell that means. It's just more Grand Line, but even weirder, scarier. We're probably going to Lightning Island pretty soon because they seem to foreshadow that pretty heavily. What's also interesting about this, unlike almost every other time jump scenario I've seen in a TV series, they set up what people are going to be doing during the time jump before the time jump. Typically, you have people together, all of a sudden, poof, they cut to a different scene, usually establishing shot 2 years later. Endgame, 5 years later. There's no setup. There's just a sudden cut to the time jump. There's no, hey, guys, by the way, guys, there's a time jump coming. There's a time jump coming. There's a time jump coming, right? Like, they don't do that. It's just sudden, and then you got to catch up. Holy shit, it's been 2 years. Holy shit, it's been 5 years, right? Here, they set it up. You knew a time jump was coming, and you know what everybody's going to be doing. Every single character, you know what they're doing during that 2 years. So what happens is when we come back from time jump, we don't have to say where everybody's been. Because normally if they just thrown this on us, boom, okay, here's what we're doing. Then when we come back from time jump, we got to spend probably 10 episodes just telling you what every character had been doing for the last 2 years. We already know what they've been doing. It was set up ahead of time. I think that was actually very smart storytelling. It was a way to say goodbye to the old story and then when we come back, we can just jump straight into the plot. We don't have to say what everybody's doing. There'll be a few details. How did you get from A to B, right? How did Robin get all the way back over here? How did Frankie get there? Because you got the icebergs you can't get off the island. There's too much ice. Maybe they can talk about that. Or maybe they'll show an episode for each character, how they get away from where they first were. I'm thinking probably not. I think we're just going straight into the people starting to get back together. And maybe in flashbacks, we'll find out a few details of precisely how I don't care how Frankie got off the island. It doesn't matter. He got off the island. We don't need to know that. Maybe they'll explore that a little bit. But I think we're going to get together and to the plot. Other than that, I mean, I think we know the ultimate end game of the series is finding the One Piece, finding the information, learning about the Void Century, toppling the government. My personal opinion, like I said in the previous video, get rid of magic. That's the long-term goal, but in the meantime, I assume that you're going to have to bump into some of these people that have been at least antagonists, maybe even villains, since then. So there's a lot of information we got to find. Did Blackbeard succeed in becoming one of the 4 emperors? I think yes, he did. He's the new Whitebeard. So that'll probably be the first person Luffy and gang have to take out. They're going to probably have to take him out. Just general principle, because he's the one who actually killed Whitebeard. So he's got to go. We need to find out who the new fleet admiral is. And is Light Bitch still around? I think personally he's probably going to be the fleet admiral. Although the suggestion was Ice Guy, right? The only reason I don't think Ice Guy is a fleet admiral is because somebody asked me, do I think he's going to be? We were said, hey, why don't you pick this guy? So I would have no reason to doubt that. But then I was specifically asked, do I think that happened? Well, you'd only ask that if it didn't happen, right? So I think it's actually going to be Light Bitch, which is the worst case scenario. Second worst case scenario is Lava Boy. I hate them all. Ice Guy's all right. I mean, he's going to do what he's going to do, and he's with the government. He's got to go down, but I don't have a personal grudge against him like I do with the other two. But yeah, that'll be an interesting answer. I think we can feel pretty confident Blackbeard's one of the four emperors. That they set that up very nicely. I guess we're going to meet the other two emperors. As far as I know, they have not been name dropped. We know Shanks, Whitebeard, now Blackbeard. There's two others. Still got to deal with the Celestials. I think they'll probably still have beef against Luffy for what happened, right? Like he hit one of them. You can't let that pass. So they're gonna have beef. So yeah, I think it's that's what I think moving forward we're going to be getting, and everything else is going to be too. I know the far reaches. I know the close reaches. What happens in the middle? Who the hell knows? It could be anything. They could turn a corner and there could be aliens, right? They could go to the moon. Like who the hell knows? I know in the short term I've just told you why things are happen. In long term I've also told you why things are happen there. In between, I'm just here for the ride, man. Yeah, well, I guess I thought this was gonna be a long video, but really, like, it's relatively simple to me. Now, I could be completely wrong in all this, but to me, it's like since they set up what everybody's gonna be doing during the time jump, what's gonna happen after it, I think is relatively simple. I think it's pretty straightforward. So let's not waste any more time. This counts as my intro to episode whatever. I should probably check that out. There better not be filler coming out of this time jump. That's gonna piss me off. But that's what I'm checking. Okay, this makes more sense. They also list mixed canon / filler episodes. I don't give a shit about that. Let me know what's completely filler and let me know what's completely canon. I don't give a shit about the mix. I'm not so precious. Oh my god, this got 6 drops of filler. I must skip this episode. I don't skip any of them, but I'm just saying that's probably why it's there. It's like, oh no, am I going to poison my precious eyes by looking at a little bit of filler, one tiny slice of filler? No, no, I must be informed at all times. Like, that must be what that is, right? So, but it makes it a little confusing. I wish it was just binary. Is or is it ain't filler, right? You know? But yeah, so it looks like we're good on no filler. Yeah, all the way up to 541, so I don't have to worry about anything right now. That would have pissed me off. Let's have this time jump and come back with some filler. No, fam, I need to know what's going to happen now. Yeah. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get into that.